I saw a reel the other day that was advertising a podcast. The snippet that they used to promote this particular episode was with a psychiatrist, I think, and she said, if you're not prepared to look after your children, don't have them. And then she went on to say that postpartum, in her opinion, was caused by women being unprepared for like the hardships of motherhood, which just both things just they really triggered something inside of me, and it made me think, okay, I need to bump this up the list now, because I'm so sick and tired of mums being judged and shamed for making decisions that are necessary for them. Welcome to the Mama Circle podcast with me, your host, Natalie K. Martin, but please call me Nat. As mums, we know that motherhood is full of magic, but it also comes with hidden costs that honestly we were just not prepared for. Exhaustion, the mental load, the money squeeze, the way our relationships and sense of self get stretched so thin that they almost break. I call this the motherhood debt, and this podcast is a safe, judgment and shame-free zone where we talk about it all. I'm going to be bringing you personal stories, conversations with other moms, and practical tools to help you feel less alone and more supported as you go along this wild roller coaster ride of motherhood. So whether you're joining me on your 2 a.m. night feed, out and about running errands, or cooking dinner for your family, I want you to know that you are doing big and important work. And in case nobody has told you this today, you've got this. So if you're ready, let's jump in. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Mama Circle podcast. You are joining me as always from my car. This time from my new car, because I want a car. I really want a car. And it has taken me a while to feel okay to drive it. I've got to admit, kind of felt a bit like, I don't know if I deserve this. And I'm driving it around for now, and it feels really fun. So welcome to the Mama Circle podcast from my car. Now, childcare guilt. So I know that lots of people experience this, and there's a lot of opinions out there about whether or not you should put your child into daycare. So I'm not speaking about school, although a lot of people do also have a lot to say about the school system, but I'm talking about nursery, kita, kindergarten, that kind of thing. And I've had this topic on my list for a while, but I saw a reel the other day that was advertising a podcast, the Mighty Pursuit podcast. I really enjoy their podcasts, I have to say, and I haven't actually listened to this one yet. But the snippet that they used to promote this particular episode was with a psychiatrist, I think, and the snippet was basically saying, or she said, if you're not prepared to look after your children, don't have them. And then she went on to say that postpartum, in her opinion, was caused by women being unprepared for like the hardships of motherhood, which just both things just they really triggered something inside of me, and it made me think, okay, I need to bump this up the list now, because I'm so sick and tired of mums being judged and shamed for making decisions that are necessary for them. And yes, feeling guilt is just a part of motherhood. I think we'll feel guilty about every single thing that we do, but there are some things that are just necessary. And so I wanted to talk about childcare guilt and why it's there, and actually why, if you're feeling that, or maybe you've said something to someone else that's been, kind of on the shaming or the judgy side, why there is no need for that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So sometimes you will have a conversation with someone and you'll mention like, I'm dropping my little one off at the nursery, or I've got my nursery pick up at whatever time. And this can often happen in like mum and baby groups. And there'll be very often one mum who's like, I could never leave my baby with strangers. I don't believe in childcare. And that can be really difficult to hear, because it infers that you are doing something wrong. It's not just oh, wow, your kid's in childcare already. It's like, oh, I could never do that. I couldn't ever leave my kid with strangers. I couldn't ever let my kid, be out of my sight for a whole day. And this guilt runs so deep because there's cultural conditioning behind it, there's gender norms behind it, and there's social media behind it as well. And everyone has got an opinion, everyone has something to say, but messages like this can really, they can really instill a sense of embarrassment and shame and judgment and like, am I a bad mom? And questions that just don't need to be there, because there is no reason to feel guilty about putting your child into childcare, in my opinion. I've said this before on this podcast. There are real reasons why things like childcare is needed. I can't remember the episode numbers off the top of my head, but the episode about parenting in 1990 versus 2025, for example, will reinstate the fact that a lot of families need childcare. It's not a nice to have, it's something that they need. Now, you could argue that having to need childcare in order to survive is pointing to a system that is just inherently wrong on many levels. But the fact is that a lot of families need childcare because they need to go to work, because they need to pay for the house that they live in and the food that they eat and the clothes that they wear and all of the rest of it. But also, a lot of families need childcare because of mental health. It is arguably better for your child to go somewhere where they can let off steam, where they can be with other children, where you can catch a break. And also, we're not living in the 50s anymore. We're not even living in 1990 anymore, if you go back and listen to that episode, because, a lot of us don't have that quote unquote village. A lot of us don't have extended family nearby or friends nearby or, lots of community driven places that they can go to and spend time with other children and kind of just like, let their kids run riot for a bit. A lot of people are living in silos. A lot of people are now living in that very nuclear family setup of, the parent or parents, the child or children, and they're on their own. They don't have this support network of people who they can, have the load lightened with. And also there's a lot of people who are on a one income per household for many different reasons. And lastly, there are many mums who actually want to go to work, who love their career, who love their job, who maybe loved their career and job before having a child, who, have maybe studied and got themselves into a huge amount of student debt and really feel a sense of purpose about what they do, and who want to get back to that, who want to get back to their lives of, away from just being a mom and needing adult stimulation, needing their brains to be activated in different ways. And that is also really valid. And I think the thing that annoys me the most about this is that by saying I could never put my child into childcare, or if you are not prepared to look after your children, you shouldn't have them, some of the comments that you'll read on Instagram and Facebook and stuff is like, why have children if you're going to ship them off to daycare and all of the rest of it. It's missing some really important factors. For example, more time doesn't actually necessarily mean better parenting. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. You can decide to not send your child to daycare because you don't believe in it, because you don't like it, because you don't trust it, whatever your reasons are, and not actually spend that much time at home with your children. You might be a mum who's on her phone all the time, or, who uses a lot of screen time. None of these things are things to be judged about. Everyone does what they need to do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's any better for your children than them being in a supervised play area or supervised learning area or with kids their own age, etc. It's also about quality over quantity. Like, there are so many factors that influence how we bond with our children, and time together is only one factor. A lot of it is to do with energy, how we discipline or not discipline, all of those things. And because of that, a mum who is calm, who is regulated, who is fulfilled, who has had time away from her child, has been able to engage her brain and feel like she's being stimulated in a different way, to have contact with other adults, or who decides to take that morning to go to the sauna and sleep and read. A calm and fulfilled mum is going to be so much more connected to her child than a mum who is exhausted because she never gets a moment to herself, or who is resentful. That calm mum will be able to bond so much more with her child in the space of 3 hours than that mum who's not sending her kid to daycare but is exhausted and resentful would be able to do in 12 hours. And also, kids benefit from having input from multiple people. I said this on previous episodes. We are not supposed to be doing this on our own. That's one of the reasons why this village is something that people speak about, because, in a village you have, let's just take the metaphorical, like, small village. You've got your family. So you've got the parents, you've got maybe the aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, the elders, the neighbours. Everyone has a different perspective. Everyone has a different way of doing things. Everyone has something new for that child to learn, and that child can grow up to understand that there are many different ways of doing things, that it's not my way or the highway, that they also can be influenced, hopefully in a good way, from in lots of different directions, that they understand that the world is quite a big and varied place, and it doesn't have to look like only what they see within their four walls of their home. And children really benefit from that. They can learn different things from different people, and at some point there's a theory as well that says that when we become teenagers, we don't listen to our parents for a reason. And it's because we need to also experience input from other people. It's why, you might have had like an aunt that you went to, or an uncle that you went to, or your neighbour, or, a teacher who you felt like you could really speak to, because we need to widen our perspectives beyond what we're told by our parents. And we can often just feel like, my mum doesn't know anything, my dad doesn't know anything. We know that they know plenty because we're mums ourselves. But it's okay for a child to be like, I'm not just going to listen to what you say. I want proof. I want to go out and explore and see how things are by myself. And that is how it happens, by being around multiple caregivers, multiple people, so that they can learn from them. And also just socializing. It's also really important. Don't underestimate how much your child can thrive by being with children around their own age. If your child is only with you, or with adults, or very short spaces of time in supervised play, maybe you take them to the soft play every day, or you go swimming, or whatever it is that you do, that's great, but they're probably not interacting with the other children there very much. Children learn from each other. Children learn how to do things that they've never done before. It's so interesting to me when I watch Jackson, watching how other children play and what they do, how they interact. He also learns by seeing their emotional reactions to things. Unfortunately, he also learns some rather undesirable behaviours, but that's just part of it. It's like when you have a dog who's at home by himself with you all the time. And then you go to a friend's house and they have a dog, and those two dogs get along. It's so cute. It's so cute to see. It's like, oh yes, there's someone of my kind here. And for children, they've got people who are on their eye level, who are behaving in similar ways to them. And that is really magic. I do think that we have to make sure that our children don't get lonely. And by being in daycare, whether it's 1 day a week, 3 days a week, 5 days a week, a couple of hours all day, they're spending time, like really spending time. They're building friendships. Jackson's always speaking about his friends. And, it's the same with adults. You don't build friendships if you are never with other people who you have something in common with. It just doesn't happen. You don't build friendships if you go and sit in a cafe by yourself every day. You build friendships by speaking, by interacting. And it's the same for children as well. And as I said earlier, money, this really big, important thing that, we all need, all of us. There is not a single person in this society anyway, who does not need money. And motherhood comes with a big financial debt, at least for a little while, while we're on maternity leave or parental leave, or taking time off to look after sick children and maybe working part-time instead of full-time. Our purse strings are inherently tightened. It might just be by a little for you, it might be by a lot. And it's not just about putting food on the table, it's not just about paying our bills. We also want to be able to enjoy having certain experiences as a family as well, and those things very often also cost money. Childcare is what makes the basic level of survival possible for some people. We need childcare to go to work. I certainly need childcare to go to work. If I didn't, then I would have to go on benefits, which is just putting an extra load on the system. So without having childcare, I would not be able to go to work so that I could pay my rent, so that I could buy my food and all of those kinds of things. You might not need to go to work, but you might just say, do you know what? I need 2 mornings a week where it's just for me, where I can get on with my life admin, where I can do the things that I need to do, the things that are going to fill me up. Like, that should also be allowed. Why are we not shaming dads? Why are we not shaming the dads for putting their children in childcare so they can go to work? Like, we tend to do this as women. And I think we do this as well because there is that expectation that women, a woman's work is never done. And to have time off as a mom means that you're somehow slacking. It means that you're somehow not being a good parent to your child. It's just not true. Wanting your own time is not selfish. It's actually self-care. It's going back to that hierarchy again. I can't remember the number of the episode, but there's an episode called The Hierarchy of Self-Care, I believe. And, that is making sure that you are looking after yourself on the most basic level. It's not being selfish to need time for yourself. And I think also we need to remember that, daycare is not a replacement. It's a replacement maybe in as much as your child is in another location instead of being at your home for these few hours, but it doesn't replace you. It's supporting you. The people who are working in the nurseries, in the kitas, in the kindergartens, in the daycare centres, they're trained to be there. They have a lot of different methods and games and ways to help kids learn that, quite frankly, a lot of parents don't have because they don't have the time to learn, and they're also not required to continue learning about these things. For me personally, I look at the ladies who are looking after Jackson while I'm at work as support. They really support him. They're teaching him the language, number one. They're teaching him how to play with other children. They're teaching him how to go to the toilet. I mean, we're all doing these things as well at home, but they are also helping and they're also stepping in and they're doing it in their way. And he loves them. He absolutely adores them. So, I'm not worried that he's going to come home and be like, well, I don't love you anymore. I love this teacher lady. No, it's not a replacement. It's a support. And and because of that support, I'm allowed to do the things that light me up and to help me to feel like I can actually have ambition for my life again and reignite my passions and do things like this podcast. I wouldn't have time to do it otherwise. So it just really made me mad listening to that snippet. And maybe I'm not doing the podcast justice. I'll listen to the episode at some point and maybe she had a lot of good things to say, but I think this argument generally of if you're not going to look after your children, don't have them, it's just balls. It's such it's a very privileged thing to say, but I also wonder if the people who are saying these things actually are 100% looking after their children themselves, or if they are the people who have that village, who have the family, who have the support network around them. And fair play to you and to them. If you are the kind of mum who can homeschool and really do that and really dedicate yourself to it and do the learning required to do that, and not send your children to school because you don't believe in it, then all power to you, seriously. One of my closest friends homeschooled her kids for a while, and I just was in awe of her, even more so now being a mum myself, because it's a lot. Like, it's so much. And, you know, you have to have a certain kind of setup to do that, and you have to have a certain kind of mindset to do that. And not everybody has that, and that's okay. So, you know, I think we need to start reframing this. The real problem is not that we use childcare. It's the problem is actually that we're trying to expect ourselves and other people to live their lives without it. And this might have worked way back in the day when we didn't have to go to work, when we were stay-at-home mums, and there was a group of stay-at-home mums because mums didn't need to work, and there was no need to put your kid in childcare because, you know, you might go over to a friend's house, or if a group of you might meet up and you would all be there with your kids, and so they would be in a kind of daycare setting. But we're not in that situation anymore, and I think that we have to kind of catch up with the times a little bit and really just stop making people feel bad for the decisions that they've made for reasons that, quite frankly, actually are none of our business. It's actually nobody's business whether or not you take your kid to nursery or not. They're not living your life, and yet somehow, you know, we can give people too much influence, too much space in our brains. What I will say though is it is very real to drop your kid off and to feel guilty about doing that. And I think a lot of it is for the reasons that I've shared here before, you know, that we are judged by other people, and that we have a feeling like we should be able to just do this without childcare, and also because we want to spend time with our kids. Jackson has loved nursery from day one. Like, he just took to it and really enjoyed it. And I had a period, probably about 3 weeks ago now, of just a few days where I would drop him off, take his shoes off, put his little slippers on and stuff, and I'd hand him over and he would cry and he wouldn't want to stay. But the crying literally lasts like 30 seconds. Like, as soon as the door was closed, I couldn't hear him crying anymore. And I did feel guilty about it because I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? He's never done this before. He's always really enjoyed going. Does he not want to go anymore? And, you know, feeling bad because I couldn't just take the day off and spend the day with him instead. But it was totally forgotten about because I know that he had a great day that day. I know because he tells me when I pick him up. And I know that I was a better mum for having some time and some space away for me to do the things that I needed to do. And, like, I have to say, the nursery pickup is probably one of my favourite parts of the day. I love everything about it. I love the fact that I'm going to see him again. I love the fact that he's so excited about what he's done that day. He tells me so much about, you know, whether they've been baking or if they've gone for a walk along the fields, what toys they've been playing with. He starts telling me about his friends and, you know, the siblings of his friends. And it's just such a lovely time because I'm seeing him grow into his own person with his own life and his own, like, social network. And that is so special. So it's okay to drop your kid off, especially in the beginning, and to kind of feel like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this. It's normal. I'm also really lucky, I guess, that in Germany, the process it's quite a long process. It's not like your kid starts nursery and then you take them on the first day and you leave them and you go. It takes place over like a good couple of weeks, maybe even longer. And you stay there with them for, you know, you stay there for an hour the first day and you stay there with them. And then, you know, you slowly graduate and then you'll leave like the room for 5 minutes and then you'll leave the room for 15 minutes and then you'll leave the room for half an hour and then you'll leave the room for an hour. And it's a gradual thing. So it feels like less of a shock on the system for both. I appreciate that's not the case everywhere, but it's a transition, and transitions are never easy. And it's okay to feel wobbly and question if you're doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, for most of us, if we're not homeschooled, we are going to have to go to school at some point. We're going to have to separate ourselves from our children at some point, whether it's for a day while they're staying with your grandparents or with their grandparents or your grandparents, or whether it's for, longer because they're going on a school trip or whatever. So I think we have to remember that our children don't belong to us. They're from us, but they don't belong to us. And we need to make sure that they are able to be functioning members of a society, because they're not on their own. They're going to need to know how to behave with other people, the rules of engagement, that we don't just grab things and, politeness and all the rest of it. And there will always be a subset of people who are very anti that, and that's okay. But that's their choice in exactly the same way as it's our choice. So on that note, just to close off and say that it is okay to need space. It's okay to send your children to nursery. It's okay to want to have time to yourself. And, maybe look at it more as the things that your child's going to gain from this experience, as opposed to the potential damage that you're doing them. Because this potential damage that people talk about, I'm no psychiatrist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, but I think we always forget that nuance comes into play here. And as I said before, if your home is a battleground, if you're struggling mentally, all of these things, it is going to be so much better for your child to be somewhere where, they're able to have fun and spend time with people, their own age and their own size, and for you to be able to take some time and, do what you need to do to keep yourself in good mental balance. So, this kind of like sending your kid to childcare is going to damage them. It's like, well, you don't know. It could be a lot worse for that child to be at home. So that's about it for today. Quite a fiery one there. I'd love to hear what you think about this. Such a divisive topic. And really, as I say, there is no shame. If you want to stay home and homeschool your kids and not send your kids to daycare and everything else, that's absolutely fine. You do you, but please let's stop making the moms and the dads and the parents who decide to send their children to daycare, let's stop making them feel guilty for doing what it is that they need to do. I would love to hear your thoughts about this. You can send me an email, info@nataliekmartin.com. If you're listening on Spotify, you can comment directly in the podcast episode, or you can feel free to drop me a comment over on Instagram @natalie.kmartin. All right, I'll see you back here for the next episode. Bye.